As many time happened, I forgot to start recording from the very start of the design. So here I show you a few layers, I don't remember which one, where I started sketching this design dedicated to Athena, that it was basically the face of Athena, a young lady with an helmet, and a landscape, a Greek landscape, and other stuff. So I did my sketch in Photoshop because of course it's easier. I don't have to throw away too many pieces of papers, so I can sketch freely without any restraint. So after I did my sketch, I just trace it on a piece of paper with a mechanical pencil with a colored lead. It's 0.5. But anyway, I will give you all the details of the stuff that I use to make this drawing in the description. So if you're interested, if you want to buy some of them, you know exactly what I'm using to make my drawing. So as I said, I trace my design with a very light colored lead in a mechanical pencil, so that after that I can take a different pencil. Usually I use HB and 2B, and I go from 0.5 to 1.4 leads, of course, all mechanical pens. Sometimes I use also graphite sticks, and also an Uniposca and a white gel pen to create some effect with the white. Here you can see I just put together my sketch, and I go on tracing my stuff. Before I start with a pencil to trace, well, not even trace, when I have the basic lines, I start shading all my design, because of course I already did my sketch, so I know exactly where I want what I want. And the idea here was pretty simple. The guy wanted Athena, but it was just that, and he wanted to fill the full arm with the theme of Athena. Here you can see I forgot a little bit of recording, because of course I don't record everything in one time. So yeah, sometimes I forgot to record, and so probably there will be other stuff that I forgot to start. You know, maybe I go to dinner or lunch and then I restart, so I forget to restart recording. But anyway, back to the design. He wanted Athena, and just that. And he thought about a landscape, a Greek landscape, and that was all. So there was no other stuff I could put there, so I had to struggle to find how to fill an entire arm with just a landscape. He wanted the Parthenon, but it's too big, it's too wide, so I had to redesign it and make it smaller and narrow, and make a narrow Parthenon because it was too big. And by the way, the arm is really not small, but anyway, it's a long and narrow surface where you can put the design. It's easy to think about in 2-dimension like a canvas, but it's not. It's basically a cylinder, so I had to struggle a little bit. And luckily enough, I had this idea about the staircase that could fill that area of the forearm, and another temple in behind. What I really like is the column that is at the base of the staircase. So it's a column like an introduction, like a portal to this staircase, and it's just one column. But when it revolves around the forearm, that column is both the left column and the right column, and it's a little trick that I like. So I'm not completely satisfied. I would have preferred to have, I don't know, a battle scene or whatever, I don't know, something more appealing. But the client was really attached to the idea of the landscape. So anyway, he's happy with it, and I'm happy too. I like it. But at start, I thought about something different. In the upper part, there is, of course, the this young woman with an helmet, because, of course, she's Athena. And we were struggling about what put inside the arm. But he told me about the fact that Athena was the goddess that gave knowledge to man, to mankind. And so I thought about this woman like in a sort of church with a light ball in her hand, representing the knowledge that she's giving to the humans. And I thought about also the idea of this kind of flash that's pointing to her forehead. I don't know, something like an illumination from gods and sort. I don't know. I just had this idea. He liked it. I liked it. And so I did this. And the idea of the church, I was thinking about windows, about something like an altar, something, but in the end I didn't like it, and I changed it completely. I left her with a light ball and a flashlight on his forehead, but I completely changed the background because I didn't like it. In the middle I put clouds because of course it's a landscape, and I use this strategy often, at least when there is a background or anyway an outside scene, because the clouds can separate the stuff that's on the forearm from the stuff that is on the upper arm, and I can manage this separation in a nice way with cloud. There's nothing rigid, and so I can manage also the I don't know if the design is too close to each other. I can make the clouds a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, so it's pretty easy. Well, I have to say that watching a video of a guy that is making a drawing can be interesting, but looking at myself it's a little bit boring because well, it's tedious looking at myself redoing the same drawing and find a way to explain what I'm doing. Here you can see I just didn't like the woman, the way I drew her, so I did another sketch, and then I used that as a reference to redo the design. So I had also an idea to change it, and in the final design I make her bigger than this because it's in the inside of the arm, but a little bit small to put all the details that I want, even if there's not much to put there. Sometimes people ask me, why don't you do that in Photoshop? Isn't that easy? And yes, it probably is, but I enjoy doing my drawings, especially when I have to do something black and gray on paper with pencil, because it gives me a little bit more an idea of what the final product will be. I don't know, I like digital design, but it's in some way I feel always a little bit detached. And also the details that I can put in a digital drawing is different. It's hard to explain, but well, the resolution of my Cintiq is good, but not as my eye, not as working on a piece of paper. I don't know. I prefer to do that, even if I, of course, do a little bit of post-production, because I use many instruments, and I give you all the instruments that I use here in the description, so if you're interested. But the paper that I'm using is really cheap, so I would need a better paper to do these drawings. But since I got I don't know, probably 500 pieces of paper of this paper for free. Well, I'm using it. It's good enough to me. So, but the pencil doesn't work really well on this kind of paper. So I prefer to do a little bit of post-production in Photoshop, and probably I would do that anyway, even if I had I would use a better paper. So as you can see, I used also a Greek decoration that would be on the shoulder, and I'm going on finishing my stuff. And after that, I will scan the design in Photoshop. I will do a little bit of post-production, and also I would change here and there the design. I clean the design in Photoshop. Of course, I do a little bit of cleaning with a mechanical eraser, or even with just plain eraser, rubber eraser, something like that. But it's easier to do that in Photoshop, and also increase the contrast, and also have an idea about the contrast with the skin tone. Here you can see I'm using Uniposca because, well, the paper is cheap, but it's not pure white. So it's cool to use a little bit of white to give a little bit more contrast. And the woman, I think that she's a little bit younger and soft and sweet to be Athena, because when I think about the goddess of war, I think about a woman, not a girl. But, well, he wanted something more probably that fits better his age. He's just in his 20s, so probably a woman to him is too old. But anyway, this is just my idea, my inner thoughts, that doesn't influence too much the design. The important thing is that it's a good design. She's a nice woman, even if she's the goddess of war. Of course, she wasn't a monster, so it's good enough. And honestly, I don't even know what to say more about this design, because I already told you about the idea that was behind, what was the... Oh, you can see here I'm using the graphite sticks. I already told you about everything I have to say, and about the technical matters. Well, it's not a design course, so here's the mechanical pencil. It's really hard to explain what I'm doing, especially with this bead. I almost forgot myself, and you can see here the idea to make a better contrast and have the woman that pops up a little bit more. I was struggling there, but finally I had an idea. Here I'm composing the scanning of the design. I had this idea, and now I can tell you, I decided to abandon the idea of the cathedral, of the church or something like that, and put there in space. And it makes sense because, of course, there are the clouds, and then up over the clouds there is the night, so there is the sky, the night sky with the stars, and she's not just having this light bulb, but that could be not just the knowledge, but also the sun or the moon. And so I think it's a cool idea. Here you can see I'm composing the design on a 3D model, not just for the client that can have a better idea about the final result, but also for me to have an idea where are all the things that, if I put them together nicely or not. And so this is pretty much the final result. You will see in a moment the 3D mock-up and the final result on his arm. Thank you for watching.